Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, text 53 to 54. Ashwatthama was captured by Arjuna, tied with ropes, brought before Draupadi. And Draupadi was saying, no, leave him because he's a Brahmana after all. Don't treat him like that. Yudhishthir, Nakul, Sahadev, everyone agreed with her. But Bhim said, no, he should be killed. He's an aggressor. And so Arjuna was like, what should I do now? So Krishna starts speaking. Krishna starts speaking and he was smiling before he spoke, and Deepika made a very nice pointed out in this regard that Krishna is always smiling. So let's read on. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. Can you hear?
Yes, we can. Brahma Bandhur na hantavya.
Brahma Bandhu na hantavya.
Atatai vadhana.
Atyat adi vadharnaha.
Maevobhyam amnatam.
Mai vobam amnatam.
Paripahi anushasanam.
Paripahi anusasanam.
Guru pratishrutam satyam.
Guru pratisrutam satya.
Yattat santavyata priyam.
Yattat santavyam priyam.
Priyam cha bhimsenasya.
Priyam cha bhimsenyasa.
Panchalyam mayam evacha.
Panchayam mayam evaka. Translation. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, said, a friend of a Brahmana is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasena and me. Purport. Arjuna was perplexed because Aswathama was to be killed as well as spared according to the different scriptures cited by the different persons. As a Brahma Bandhu or a worthless son of a Brahmana, Aswathama was not to be killed, but he was at the same time an aggressor also. And according to the rulings of Manu, an aggressor, even though he be a Brahmana, and what to speak of an unworthy son of Brahmana, is to be killed. Dronacharya was certainly a Brahmana in the same sense of the term, but because he stood in the battlefield, he was killed. But although Aswathama was an aggressor, he stood without any fighting weapon. The ruling is that an aggressor, when he is without a weapon or chariot, cannot be killed. All these were certainly perplexities. Besides that, Arjuna had to keep the promise he had made before Draupadi, just to pacify her. And he also had to satisfy both Bhima and Krishna, who advised killing him. The dilemma was present before Arjuna, and the solution was awarded by Krishna.
So Krishna was saying, now what you're going to do, because Bhim and me want Ashwatthama to be killed. And Draupadi and everyone else is saying, no, you cannot kill him. He's a Brahmana. So now you have to satisfy both of us. We want him to be killed, but they are saying, no, you can't kill him. So then this was now Krishna. So he's saying now, that you have to kill and not yet kill. Krishna is telling him. Sutta Vacha.
Sutta Vacha.
Arjuna Sahasagyaya.
Arjuna Sahasanya.
Harer Hardam Athasina.
Harer Hardam Atasina.
Manim Jahara Murdhanyam.
Manim Jahara Murdanyam.
Dvijasya Saha Murdhajam.
Divatsya Saha Murdajam. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, just then Arjuna could understand the motive of the Lord by his equivocal orders, and thus with his sword he severed both hair and jewel from the head of Aswathama. Purport. Contradictory orders of different persons are impossible to carry out. Therefore, a compromise was selected by Arjuna by his sharp intelligence, and he separated the jewel from the head of Aswathama. This was good as cutting off his head, and yet his life was saved for all practical purposes. Here, Aswathama is indicated as twice born. Certainly, he was twice born, but he fell down from his position, and therefore he was properly punished.
So Arjuna is thinking now. Krishna wants him to be killed, not to be killed. So he understood. He cut off his hair and the jewel. It seems Ashwathama had a jewel on his head. He took it away. So this was as good as killing him and not killing him. Arjuna was able to understand this because he was insulted. He is actually a Brahmana Bandhu. So he was insulted. So like that, it's as good as killing him. Yet he's alive. Vimuchya Rashana Badham.
Vimuchaya Rasana Bandham.
Bala Hatya Hat Prabham.
Bala Hatya Hat Prabham.
Tejasa Manina Hinam.
Tejasa Maninam Hinam.
Shibiran Nirayapayat.
Tibaran Nirayapayat. Translation. He, Asavathama, had already lost his bodily luster due to his infanticide, and now, moreover, having lost the jewel from his head, he lost even more strength. Thus he was unbound and driven out of the camp. Purport. Thus being insulted, the humiliated Asvathama was simultaneously killed, and not killed by the intelligence of Lord Krishna and Arjuna.
So then now, because the jewel is away from his head, already because he killed the sleeping sons, they were children. He killed them already because of this very, very sinful activity. His bodily luster was lost. You know how one has a nice shine coming from their body? This gone because of this bad activity, sinful activity. So now his jewel is also gone. So he's even become more weaker. So he's insulted, his strength is gone, and now he is thrown out of the place. So he's killed and he's not killed. He's been insulted, he's humiliated. This was by the intelligence, what Krishna wanted, and Arjuna followed. Vapanam Dravinadhanam.
Vapanam Dravinadhanam.
Sthana Niryapanam Tatha.
Sanam Niryapana Atata.
Isha hi Brahma Bandhunam.
Esahi Brahma Bandhunam
Bado nanyosti daihika.
Vadonanyosti Deika. Translation: cutting the hair from his head, depriving him of his wealth, and driving him from his residence are the prescribed punishments for the relative of a Brahmin. There is no injunction for killing the body.
So it seems in the scriptures there is a way that if a Brahmana needs to be punished, then one need not kill his physical body, but one takes away his wealth. So they took away the jewel which was there on his head, driving him out of the place where he's living, cutting his hair. So all these are punishments for a Brahmana bandhu, friend, a relative of a Brahmana. Brahmana bandhu. One who himself is not a Brahmana, but who's a relative of a Brahmana. Putra shokatura sarve,
Putra Sokharo Sura Sarve
Pandava saha Krishnaya,
Pandava Saha Krishnaya
Swanam Ritanam Yatkrityam,
Swanam Ritanyam Yat Krityam
Chakrur Nirharanadikam.
Kakru Nirbarhana Dikam. Translation: thereafter, the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. Purport: thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the first canto, seventh chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled "The Son of Droṇa Punished."
So this is, so they were in grief because the young children were dead. So now they are able to perform the last rites for them, the children, and they're grieving. So Sutuvacha,
Sutta Uvacha
Athate Samparitanam,
Atate Samparetanam
Swanam Udkam Ichatam,
Tvanam Utkam Ichatam
Datum Sakrishna Gayam,
Datun Sa Krishna Gungayanam
Puraskritya Yayustriya.
Purak Purakritya Yahu Astriya. Translation: Sutta Goswami said, thereafter the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front. Purport: to date it is the custom in Hindu society to go to the Ganges or any other sacred river to take bath when death occurs in the family. Each of the family members pours out a potful of Ganges water for the departed soul and walks in a procession with the ladies in front. The Pandavas also followed the rules more than 5,000 years ago. Lord Krishna, being a cousin of the Pandavas, was also amongst the family members.
So it seems it's a custom that when someone dies, then the family goes to the Ganga, bathes over there, and then takes water from the Ganga and offers for the departed, the one who's left the body. And they're walking, all of them are walking together, the ladies in the front, and in the front, the Pandavas also did it, and Krishna is also here. Krishna is also so aggrieved. He's also here. because he's also a part of their family. Tinini yodakam sarve
Nini yudakam sarve
vilapya cha brashampana
vilapya cha prasambana puna
apluta haripadamcha
apluta hari padabja
rajaputa sarichale.
rajaputa sari jale. Translation. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord.
So the Ganges water is so important because she's coming after she's washed the lotus feet of the Lord Vamandev, when he was taking his step. There came to be like an opening in the covering of the universe, and that's how the Ganges came. She touched his feet, watching his feet, and that's how she's so important, so pure. Atrasinam kurupatim
Titasaram Gurupatim
Dhritarashtram sahanujam
Dadyastyam Sahanucham
Gandharim putra shokartam
Gadharim Putra Sokartam
Pritham Krishnam cha Madhava.
Pratam Krishna Chaha Madhava. Translation. There sat the king of the Kurus, Maharaja Yudhishthira, along with his younger brothers and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. Lord Krishna was also there. Purport. The battle of Kurukshetra was fought between family members, and thus all affected persons were also family members, like Maharaja Yudhishthira and brothers Kunti, Draupadi, Shabadara, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and her daughters-in-law, etc. All the principal dead bodies were in some way or the other related with each other, and therefore the family grief was combined. Lord Krishna was also one of them as a cousin of the Pandavas and nephew of Kunti, as well as brother of Shubdara, etc. The Lord therefore was equally sympathetic towards all of them, and therefore he began to pacify them befittingly.
So, because it was and the Kurus and Pandavas, after all, it was one Kuru dynasty. After all, they were one family. So the dead are also from the same family. So all the relatives are there. And Krishna is also there. Krishna is the nephew of Kunti, Pandavas are his cousins, and also Subhadra. He is the brother of Subhadra, and Subhadra's son, Abhimanyu, had also died. So Krishna is there, and so now Krishna is going to pacify them. Santavyam asamunibhir
Santanyam asa munibhir
hat bandhun sucharpitan
had bandhun sucharpitan
bhuteshu kalasya gatim
bhutestu kalasya gatam
darshayana pratikriyam.
darsenam na pratikriyam. Translation. Citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and their reactions upon living beings, Lord Sri Krishna and the Munis began to pacify those who were shocked and affected. Purport. The stringent laws of nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be altered by any living entity. The living entities are eternally under the subjection of the Almighty Lord. The Lord makes all the laws and orders, and these laws and orders are generally called dharma or religion. No one can create any religious formula. Bona fide religion is to be abide by the orders of the Lord. The Lord's orders are clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone should follow him only or his orders, and that will make all happy, both materially and spiritually. As long as we are in the material world, our duty is to follow the orders of the Lord. And if by the grace of the Lord we are liberated from the clutches of the material world, then in our liberated stage, also we can render transcendental loving service unto the Lord. In our material stage, we can see neither ourselves nor the Lord for the want of spiritual vision. But when we are liberated from the material affection and are situated in our original spiritual form, we can see both ourselves and the Lord face to face. Mukti means to be reinstated in one's original spiritual status after giving up the material conception of life. Therefore, human life is specifically meant for qualifying ourselves for this spiritual liberty. Unfortunately, under the influence of illusory material energy, we accept the spot life of only a few years as our permanent existence and thus become illusion by possessing so-called country, home, land, children, wife, community, wealth, etc., which are false representations created by Maya and Maya illusion. And under the dictation of Maya, we fight with one another to protect these false possessions. By cultivating spiritual knowledge, we can realize that we have nothing to do with all this material paraphernalia. Then at once we become free from material attachment. The clearance of the misgivings of the material existence at once takes place by association with the Lord's devotees, who are able to inject the transcendental sound into the depths of the bewildered hearts and thus make one practically liberated from all lamentation and illusion. That is a summary of the pacifying measures for those affected by the reaction of stringent material laws, exhibited in the form of birth, death, old age, and disease, which are insoluble factors of material existence. The victims of war, namely the family members of the Kurus, were lamenting the problems of death, and the Lord pacified them on the basis of knowledge.
So here the Lord is speaking about the stringent laws of this material world. These laws are of the Supreme Lord, because the nature is following the law orders of the Lord. Krishna is saying, Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. This material world, material nature is working under Krishna's supervision, under God's supervision. So the laws of nature are actually made by God. Hmm. So God makes all these laws and orders, and the Lord's orders are called dharma or religion. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. So man cannot make the principles of religion or dharma. No, only God can. Human being cannot, because we are defective. So only God can give us the principles of religion. And bona fide religion means we follow the orders of the Lord. Now, how will we know what God wants us to do? He's given us the Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, he's saying, Sarva dharmam parityagya mam ekam sharanam raja aham tuam sarva papebhyo moksheshyami ma sucha. He's saying, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall free you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So Krishna is telling us, he's commanding us, each and every one, to surrender to him. But we may say, oh, I'm afraid I'll get sinful reactions. Krishna is saying, I'll protect you, don't worry. Then Krishna is saying, Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskaru. That engage your mind always in thinking of me. He's saying in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9. Always think of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, worship me, and in this way you will come to me. So Krishna is giving us these orders so that we can live happily here in the material world. And at the end, after giving up the body, we can go to the spiritual world. And so going to the spiritual world, liberation, we continue to be with the Lord, see him face to face. It's beginning of our real life. That is real mukti, to go to the spiritual world, to see God, talk to him, have a relationship with him. In this material world right now, we are not able to understand who we are. We are not able to see ourselves, the soul. When we look in the mirror, we are just seeing the body, but we are actually the soul. We're not able to see ourselves. We are not able to see God because our consciousness has become material. So, but when we get liberated at Mukti, we can see our own self and we can see God, both. So how can we do that? Right now, we are not able to do. Right now, we are thinking, I'm the body, I'm this body. Whatever is belonging is to the body is mine. And to protect it, we do so much endeavor, we fight with each other. But all this is actually illusory, These are not really ours. At one point, we have to give them up, but we are not able to understand it because of the illusory potency. Maya, she has put us in so much illusion that we may even speak about such things, hear them, but we are not able to understand. So what can we do? When we associate with the devotees, as soon sadhu sanga, sarva shastra kahe, lava matra sadhu sanga, sarva siddhi hai. And once when we associate with the sadhus, the devotees, the pure devotees, just by being in their association, the cleaning of our heart begins. They speak to us the transcendental knowledge, the transcendental sound. It goes inside our heart. And gradually, we can give up our illusion, our lamentation, give up our infatuation with the material world. So Krishna, he begins to pacify all the members of the family who are afflicted with this transcendental knowledge. So by engaging in devotional service, the more we hear about Krishna from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the more we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The more our consciousness becomes cleaner, purified, and then the more we will be able to understand the spiritual knowledge. And the more we will be able to give up our lamentation, our fear, or hankering. Okay. Sadyat vachata shatro.
Sadhya achata satru
Swam rajyam kitveritam.
swam rajyam kitverhitam
Ghat yitva sator ragya.
gatyat stasavo rajna
Kach sparsha shatayusha.
kach spasham satayutha. Translation. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died. Their duration of life have decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. purport. In the glorious days, or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. Number one, the protection of the Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Asrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. Two, the protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of fooding, that is, milk for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. Three, the protection of women maintains the chastity of society by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. 4. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadana Samaskara, the beginning of pure life. The protection, number 5, the protection of the old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for a better life after death. The complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above mentioned innocent creature is totally forbidden because even by insulting them, one loses one duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varna Sankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dusana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an idle chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above.
So here, what we are understanding is Duryodhan, for no fault of Yudhishthir, he took away Yudhishthir's kingdom. Actually, Yudhishthir was the rightful king, but Duryodhan, out of his own greed and pride, he wanted to become king. And so he did so many wrong activities on them. And the others who joined Duryodhan in the war, they were killed also. Everyone, by the grace of the Lord. Krishna wanted the religious principles to be protected. This was a religious war. He wanted the devotee to rule the world so that everyone can be taken care of. We will hear that how, when Yudhishthir Maharaj was ruling the world, how the earth was so happy, everyone was happy, animals also, human beings. So also, they were killed because they insulted Draupadi. Draupadi, very chaste lady, and they insulted her. And she's a great devotee of the Lord. So the Lord wanted all these miscreants to be punished. These are laws of God that women, old men, children, cows, and the Brahmanas should be given proper protection for proper functioning of society. We can see it. Currently, the society is not very functioning in a very proper way because there's no protection for these five Brahmanas, cows, women, children, and old men. Brahmanas were given protection so they can guide everyone to live according to Varna Sharma. Varna Sharma Dharma is like a stepping stone to spiritual life. Because it gives one culture, makes one realize about the principles, how to live properly, and then one can be ready to accept spiritual life. So it's like a stepping stone to spiritual life. So the Brahmanas were given protection so they could teach people how to live according to Varna Sharma. Then cows are protected because cows give us milk. By drinking milk, we get finer brain tissues by which we can understand spiritual knowledge. It's very scientific. The milk which one drinks gives us it gives us the intelligence to understand the transcendental spiritual knowledge. But cows should be protected. Lovingly, they will give us milk. We'll see how Yudhishthir Maharaj's time, the cows were so happy that they were just giving milk lovingly. The others were just keeping on giving milk. The earth was getting wet with the milk. Protection of women to maintain the chastity of society. And protect children to make them understand, give them higher principles of how to live properly in this world, give them spiritual knowledge. It begins right from Garbhadan Sanskar, even before the child is begotten in the womb. The parents, they chant so many rounds so that they can attract a good soul. And the entire life, the child is protected nicely so that he can prepare to leave the world when he dies, not come back to the material world again. And or protection for old men, then it gives them a chance to cultivate spiritual knowledge, engage in spiritual activities so that when they die, they can go back to the spiritual world. So we can see that the whole society was based, live peacefully, live happily, at the same time, cultivate spiritual knowledge that make this life the last life. Don't come back to this material world again. So Prabhupada is mentioning that right now we have got very high standard of living, but it's like civilization, uh, polished cats and dogs. So they need protection. All these 5 people, they need proper protection. And by insulting them, Prabhupada is mentioning that one loses one's duration of life. Now that they are being not protected. So that's the reason a person's life in Kali Yuga is getting shorter and shorter. And women are not protected. Because of women not being protected, then they are unwanted children called Varna Sankara. Then the society gets more and more in a chaotic situation. So Arjuna, this is what one of the reasons Arjuna was saying, I'm not going to fight, because then it will stop the tradition, it will stop family values, it will make the women go unchaste, it will get Varna Sankara, and then the whole society will be in chaos. And we are seeing practically it's happening now. But of course, Krishna wanted the war to happen because there were too many persons who were actually unfit to be kings, but they were occupying the position of kings. So they were unfit to be kings. So these are some of the laws of God. Yajayitva
Yajati swadena stam.
Tribir Uttama Kalpake
Ribir uttama kalpike.
Yad Yasha Pavanam Dikshu
Tat yasa pavanam diksu.
Shat Manyor Ivatano.
Sat manyor ivatanot. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna caused 3 well-performed Aswamedha yajnas, horses sacrifices, to be conducted by Maharaja Yudhishthira, and thus caused his virtuous fame to be glorified in all directions, like that of Indra, who had performed 100 such sacrifices. Purport. This is something like the preface of performances of Aswamedha Yajna by Maharaja Yudhishthira. The comparison of Maharaja Yudhishthira to the King of Heaven is significant. The King of Heaven is thousands and thousands of times greater than Maharaja Yudhishthira in opulence. Yet the fame of Maharaja Yudhishthira was not less. The reason is that Maharaja Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord, and by his grace only was King Yudhishthira on the level of the King of Heaven, even though he performed only 3 yajnas, whereas the King of Heaven performed hundreds. That is the prerogative of the devotee of the Lord. The Lord is equal to everyone, but the devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he is always in touch with the All Great. The sun rays was equally distributed, but still there are some places which are always dark. This is not due to the sun, but to the receptive power. Similarly, those who are 100% devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere.
So Krishna, under Krishna's supervision, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he performed 3 Ashwamedha Yagyas, the horse sacrifices. Indra had done 100 of these. So although Indra, he's the king of heaven, he's a very powerful personality. He's a demigod. And so he's more powerful than Yudhishthir. Yet, Yudhishthir is famous, more famous, or as famous as Lord Indra. Why? Because he's a pure devotee of the Lord. Because Maharaj Yudhishthir is a pure devotee, that's why he's so famous. So Prabhupada is pointing out that the Lord's mercy is there on everyone, just as the sun shines everywhere. But if someone closes the curtain, then one is stopping the sunshine from coming in. The sun is not saying, oh, I'm not going to shine on you. But if we ourselves close the curtain, how will we receive the sunshine? Similarly, Krishna's mercy is on everyone. Krishna's mercy is everywhere. But some are willing to receive it and some are not. That is the difference. So when one becomes a devotee, of course, there is loving reciprocation between the devotee and the Lord. Right. That's because the devotee has so much love for the Lord, so he always wants to be with the Lord. So then automatically the Lord wants to be with him. Although the Lord is equal to everyone, a devotee is very glorified. He has the special mercy. He's able to receive the mercy. Amantriya Pandu Putramscha.
Amantriya Pandu Putrancha.
Shene Yodhav Samyuta.
Sene Yoda Samyuta.
Vepa Yanadibir Vipre.
Depa Inader Vipra.
Pujita Pratipujita.
Pujita Prati Pujita. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna then prepared for his departure. He invited the sons of Pandu after having been worshipped by the Brahmanas, headed by the Srila Vyasadeva. The Lord also reciprocated greetings. Purport. Apparently, Lord Sri Krishna was a Shastriya and was not worshipable by the Brahmanas, but the Brahmanas present there, headed by Srila Vyasadeva, also knew him to be the personality of Godhead, and therefore they worshipped him. The Lord reciprocated the greetings just to honor the social order that a Shastra is obedient to the orders of the Brahmana. Although Lord Sri Krishna was always offered the respects of the due to the Supreme Lord from all responsible quarters of the Lord, never deviated from the customary usages between the 4 orders of society. The Lord purposely observed all these social customs so that others would follow him in the future.
Then Krishna was leaving and everybody worshipped him. So Srila Vyasadeva, who's a Brahmana, and all the other Brahmanas also worshipped Krishna. Apparently, Krishna is like a Kshatriya, no? But he's God after all. And Vyasadeva and the other great persons, they understand him that he's God. That's why he's worshipping them. I'm sorry, they are worshipping him. That Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Because according to Varna Sharma, the kings are worshipping the Brahmanas. But here we are seeing the Brahmanas are worshipping Krishna, who's a king. But Krishna is not just a king, he's God himself. That's why they are worshipping him. But of course, Krishna, when he was here, he would always follow the customs of the Varna Sharma. Why? To set an example so that everyone can follow the proper etiquette of how to deal with each other, how to function in society. So he always gave all the respects to the Brahmanas. He always protected Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children. Gantum Krit Matir Brahman.
Gantum Kritim Brahman.
Varakam Ratham Astita.
Varakam Ratham Astita.
Uplebe Bidha Vantim.
Ublebe Vidavantim.
Uttaram Bhai Balam.
Uttaram Bhaya Vebalam. Translation. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start for Dwarka, he saw Uttara hurrying towards him in fear. Purport. All the members of the family of the Pandavas were completely dependent on the protection of the Lord, and therefore the Lord protected all of them in all circumstances. The Lord protects everyone but one who depends completely upon him, especially looked after by the Lord. The father is more attentive to the little son who is exclusively dependent on the father.
So Krishna he was going to leave. He was on the chariot. He was going to go to Dwarka, but Uttara came running to him. So Prabhupada is pointing out in the purport that the Pandavas were completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Everyone is, actually all of us are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. It's just that we don't realize it or we don't accept it. But all of us are completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. So the devotees, they've realized it, they've understood it. And so they are completely dependent on the Lord. So the father is more attentive, as the father is more attentive to a child who's depending on him. So Krishna is personally attentive to the devotees. We can see that how whenever the Pandavas were in any problem, Krishna was always there to personally protect them. He personally protected them. So this is a loving relationship between the Lord and his devotees. Krishna says, you surrender to me, I will protect you, don't fear. And we can see that's what's happening, that he always protected the Pandavas. So should we... Okay, so we'll just read one more and then we can stop. Uttaruvacha.
Uttarvacha.
Pahi Pahi Mahayogin.
Pahi Pahi Mahayogin.
Deva Deva Jagatpate.
Deva Deva Jagatpate.
Nanyam Tvad Abhayam Pashye.
Nanyam Tvad Abhayam Pasye.
Yatra Mrityu Parasparam.
Yatra Mrityu Param. Translation. Uttara said, O Lord of Lords, Lord of the universe, you are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in the worldly of duality. Purport. The material world is the world of duality, in contrast with the oneness of the absolute realm. The world of duality is composed of matter and spirit, whereas the absolute world is complete spirit without any tinge of material qualities. In the dual world, everyone is falsely trying to become the master of the world, whereas in the absolute world, the Lord is the absolute Lord, and all others are the absolute servitors. In the world of duality, everyone is envious of all others, and death is inevitable due to the dual existence of matter and spirit. The Lord is the only shelter of fearlessness for the surrendered soul. One cannot save himself from the cruel hands of death in the material world without having surrendered himself or at the lotus feet of the Lord.
Sarah's coming to save him, coming to him. She's saying, "O Lord of Lords, O Lord of the universe." She's scared. Deva Deva Jagatpate, Pahi Pahi Mahayogin, the greatest mystic, O most worshipable Lord, O Lord of the universe. You know, she's glorifying Lord, and she's saying, "You protect me because there's no one else who can protect me. You please protect me. Who can? Otherwise, who else can protect me from death?" Only Krishna can save. Krishna says, "Devi hi esha gunamai mam maya duratyaya mam evam ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite." That he says that this material world is very difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can very easily cross beyond it. Very easily, Krishna says. So this world, material world, is a world of duality. It's duality because there is matter and spirit. Matter cannot last, no matter how long we try to, but it will come to an end. You know, it decomposes, like you see, even a flower, it's nice and it keeps budding, nice, blooms, but then it keeps deteriorating. Everything has expiry date. Everything has birth date, expiry date, but the soul is eternal. So this world is a world of duality, but in the spiritual world, it's only spirit. It's only absolute. So there's no duality there. There's no material qualities. It's only spiritual, transcendental, Satchidananda. The Lord is there as the absolute master in the absolute world, and all the living entities are there as the absolute servitors. There's a loving relationship between God and the living entities in the spiritual world, and everyone is uh, actively in that relationship, actively engaged in that relationship. In this material world, everyone is envious of each other. There is death, but in the spiritual world, there is no envy, there is no death. This world of material world is full of fearfulness, anxiety. Spiritual world, there's no fear, there's no anxiety, because one is completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, to Krishna. So if we want, so fearless at the feet of the Supreme Lord, surrendering to the Supreme Lord to become fearless. The more we surrender to Krishna, the more fearless we become. We'll stop here. Did anyone want to say anything? Any question, any comment? Thank you so much for listening and joining in. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.